And good evening, and thank you for joining us. We are going to begin with breaking news. President Trump is at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center tonight after testing positive for coronavirus overnight. The White House press secretary says the president will be at the hospital for, quote, the next few days out of an abundance of caution, where he will continue to work from a special office at the hospital there. And while the White House is not saying Mr. Trump has been hospitalized, it is clear that is exactly what has happened tonight. As we come on the air, the president's doctor has released a statement calling him tired but in good spirits, and saying the president is now taking an experimental antibody treatment. The First Lady and a top West Wing advisor, Hope Hicks, have also tested positive, and tonight the White House is frantically trying to reach out to anyone who was in close contact with them recently. Former Vice President Joe Biden, who shared a debate stage with Mr. Trump on Tuesday, says he has tested negative twice, and he was back out on the campaign trail today, as you see. Now, after months of downplaying the severity of the crisis, the president is now one of millions worldwide suffering from it. At the same time, he is responsible for leading the nation's response to it. Not since Ronald Reagan has there been as serious a threat to the president's health or the national security. And just a reminder, we're just 32 days left until Election Day. His diagnosis now also presents a serious threat to his own campaign. Well, there's a lot of news breaking right now. Our entire CBS News organization is developing all of the details. I want to begin tonight with CBS's Ben Tracy, who's going to lead off our coverage from the White House. Good evening, Ben.
Nora, good evening. The White House says there has been no transfer of power to Vice President Mike Pence and that President Trump is still in charge. But White House officials are describing the situation here today as scary and crazy as they try to stop the spread of the virus. The president's trip tonight to Walter Reed Military Medical Center comes after he spent the day isolating on the second floor of the White House with the First Lady, suffering from what aides describe only as mild symptoms of COVID-19. Late today, the president released this video.
I want to thank everybody for the tremendous support. I'm going to Walter Reed Hospital. I think I'm doing very well, but we're going to make sure that things work out. The First Lady is doing very well. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. I will never forget.
In a statement, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany says, out of an abundance of caution and at the recommendation of his physician and medical experts, the president will be working from the presidential offices at Walter Reed for the next few days. The White House physician, Dr. Sean Conley, said the president has received an infusion of an experimental therapy called polyclonal antibody under what's known as compassionate use. Dr. Conley says the president is fatigued but in good spirits. Earlier in the day, White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows tried to reassure the public, saying the president was in contact with staff and working.
We've talked a number of times this morning. I got the 5 or 6 things that he had tasked me to do, like I do every single morning.
The White House is now in crisis mode.
I fully expect that as this virus continues to go on, other people in the White House will certainly have a positive test result.
Vice President Mike Pence tested negative, and sources say is working from his home at the U.S. Naval Observatory today. His doctor says there is no need for him to quarantine. White House medical staff are trying to find anyone who may have had contact with the president after a whirlwind week of events that took him to 5 different states in 6 days for multiple events. Reporters first learned around 8 o'clock Thursday night that one of the president's closest aides, Hope Hicks, had tested positive, something sources say the White House was not planning to make public. Overnight, the president called into Fox, appearing to blame Hicks's infection on members of the military or law enforcement.
She's a very warm person. She has a hard time when soldiers and law enforcement comes up to her. You know, she wants to treat them great, not say, stay away, I can't get near you. It's a very, very tough disease.
Knowing Hicks was positive, the president was tested at least twice. Just before 1 a.m. with the lights on in the White House, the president tweeted he too was sick. It's unknown how or when the president was infected, but his exposure could stretch back to at least Saturday's Rose Garden event, where he nominated his new Supreme Court justice,
Judge Amy Coney Barrett.
Along with Hicks, 2 others at the event, Utah Senator Mike Lee and the president of Notre Dame, Father John Jenkins, have also tested positive. Amy Coney Barrett, who reportedly already had the virus earlier this year, tested negative today. On Monday, Hicks was a part of a small group that met to prep the president for the debate at the White House.
No one was wearing masks in the room when we were prepping the president during that period of time. The group was about 5 or 6 people in total.
On Tuesday, the president and Hicks traveled to the debate in Ohio. Despite masks being mandatory in the debate hall, most Trump family members took them off, and the president mocked Joe Biden for regularly wearing one.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen.
Sources tell CBS News Hicks tested negative Wednesday morning. She was seen later that day boarding Marine One with top White House officials Jared Kushner and Stephen Miller for the 10-minute flight to Joint Base Andrews. Like this file photo shows, they shared very cramped space inside the helicopter. They then boarded Air Force One, all touching the staircase handrail, before traveling to Minnesota for a fundraiser, followed by a rally in Duluth, where the president again minimized the COVID crisis.
We're rounding the turn.
Sources say Hicks developed symptoms during the trip and tried to separate herself on the flight back to Washington. The White House has not explained why she wasn't immediately tested or if the president was told she was sick. While the White House timeline is murky, Hicks apparently tested positive at some point Thursday. Despite the White House knowing this and even removing several staffers who may have been exposed just before they got on Marine One, the White House deemed it safe for President Trump to fly to his New Jersey golf club, holding a fundraiser with dozens of donors, some of which reportedly said the president seemed hoarse and lethargic. Today, New Jersey's governor said the state is trying to track down and test those who attended. And on Thursday night, the president delivered a recorded speech at the annual Al Smith dinner.
And I just want to say that the end of the pandemic is in sight.
And that clearly is not true. And Ben joins us now with just 32 days to go before the election. How is the president's health going to change his campaign?
Well, his campaign is effectively on hold tonight. All upcoming rallies, all upcoming fundraisers have been postponed or canceled for both the president and all the members of his family. And Nora, there is one piece of good news. We did just confirm that when the president arrived at Walter Reed Medical Center tonight, he actually did not go to the emergency room. He went right to that presidential suite where he'll be observed, tested, and he can also work. So that's a piece of good news that he didn't need to go to the ER.
All right, Ben, Tracy, thank you.